recorded. I've let you know that to avoid legal snags by telling people that they are being recorded. So
Okay.
I'll do a countdown and then an intro, and I'll have you introduce yourself.
Okay.
3, 2, 1. Hello and welcome to the Mo Liberty and Stuff podcast. I am your host, Paul Shin. Hello. I am with you here again for another exciting episode, and I have with me another special guest. They're all special guests to me. They're special in different ways. People I know face to face, some people I just know through social media, or some people are family, blood relatives. So this is really exciting, and I'd like to have my guest introduce himself.
Hi, my name is Felipe Martinez. I'm the pastor of First Presbyterian Church in Columbus, Indiana.
Well, Felipe, thank you very much for coming on the show. Felipe is my pastor, so I'm very excited to have him join us for this episode.
Thank you, Paul.
Yeah, absolutely. So the premise of the podcast for everybody, this might be your first opportunity to listen, is I ask a single question, and based upon that question, that just kind of leads us down a path. And we try to keep these short and sweet, somewhere between 30 and 45 minutes, no longer, just in case those folks that are essential are driving to work or back home, they can have a little bit of relief from the mundane of work, and they can get their mind wrapped around something different, some different conversation. So Felipe, you know, you hold a very special place in my heart. And my question for you is, with everything going on right now, you are a light for me, and I want to know how that light works for you. How do you keep that special thing going? Because our relationship started with you saying, "Hey, I've got about 20 minutes for us to talk," and about 2 hours later, and 2 cups of coffee, is how our first conversation went about 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And I just want to know, because I've never seen you in anything but a positive, uplifting light. And I want to know how you keep that going, especially what's going on right now.
Thank you, Paul, and thank you for your kind words. I am grateful to be in partnership in ministry with you. Paul, I think the best way that I can answer that question is by telling you a little bit about my mom, because it is her faith perspective that feeds me and allows me to, puts me in context in a number of ways. If I were to call my mother right now, and if I were to say, "Mom, I've got a problem or an issue that I got to figure out," I know what she's going to say, because she has given me the same answer for as long as I've been alive. And that is, she will say, "Put it in God's hands." And what she means by that is that we ourselves are in God's hands, and that realizing that we have a situation or a problem or a challenge means that we have to reconnect with that sense of our place with God. So by answering that way, she is challenging me, she is encouraging me to see myself in the context of God, and I am in God's care. I am in God's hands. And so when I find myself in this crisis, as we all find ourselves, I think of myself, and I think of us as people, turning to God for guidance, turning to God for support and encouragement, not in a sense that says that everything will be fixed, but rather in a sense that says that God is the one who's there to hold us, to comfort us, to care for us. And it allows me to have a sense of perspective, because the world doesn't expect me to answer the issues or the problems. Rather, I guide them, or I encourage them to put themselves in God's hands, to put ourselves in God's hands, so that I don't have then the pressure of being the answer person. If anything, I'm the question person. I'm the one that's going to ask a question or two to go deeper into whatever it is that we're facing. So the perspective that I have, the faith that I bring, is wrapped up in that very simple phrase that could fit on a T-shirt or a bumper sticker, and without trying to make my faith complex, I'm perfectly happy with summarizing my faith in that way with that phrase.
Wow. Just it's refreshing to hear you. Felipe's congregation, of course, like many other most churches in the United States, has gone to closing their doors and has gone online. And now Felipe has a Zoom video of the service every Sunday morning at 9:30, and I have been had the pleasure of listening to that and getting the message. It's not the same thing. There's the disconnect, but I do feel close, and I love seeing the number of people that join. Many of them are part of the congregation, and some of them are not, and that's also very exciting that there are people that aren't from the community that are listening and wanting to hear comforting words. And I think that you've grown in that you've had some challenges with technology.
Yeah.
And but also the message is very strong, and it holds up very well, especially in this time. And it's I don't want to say it's a perfect time, but the messages that have been recent have been around the Easter time frame and the finishing up of Lent and just lighting of candles and making sure that everybody understands why that's so important. But I've got to tell you a quick story. One of the best things that ever happened was watching about 3 weeks ago. You were going through, which is a very, I respect this and honor this, is that you had prayer and praise requests. And it was a prayer request for Emma. And Emma, we want to raise up Emma. And then there was a note that was handed to you while you were praying. And the note was to explain that Emma was a cat. And the fact that you did not you didn't chuckle, you didn't laugh, you took that very seriously, that this person who could be living at home alone, this could be their only source of communication, physical contact. You held that very dear and honorable. Of course, I laughed because of the fact that you had to fix that, but you were so deadpan on that, and I'm sure you chuckled after the fact. But I really just appreciate that I even though I laughed too, I just thought it was so touching that realizing that this person, it could be their only that only line of contact that they have, and that you held it and you respected that, even if it was not a person that you were praying for.
Well, and the thing about that is, and I may have chuckled myself, but, that chuckle would have been not of mockery, but rather of silly me. I find that that self-deprecating humor is about not laughing with people, not laughing at people, but laughing with people. And that kind of humor, I mean, self-deprecating humor. Listen, I've got a wealth of material there ready for me, so I'll be all right.
All right. So, being that we live in Indiana, we live in kind of not the most rural state. We're not in North or South Dakota, but we've got about 6.6 million people. Bartholomew County accounts for about 80,000 people. How are you keeping the faith, which I realize that you're putting things in God's hands. Those are your mom's words. But how are you, how did you have to change what you do on a daily basis to still engage the congregation and the community for what you do on a daily basis? How has that changed for you in the past? I guess it's been 37 days now?
Yeah. 300 years.
Yeah, exactly.
One of the things that I was toying with as these decisions needed to be made, whether or not we would cancel in-person worship back in March, and I can tell you the day because it was March, Friday the 13th was the day when we made the decision that we would not worship in person. And I was very careful to make sure to couch it in that language, that we were canceling in-person worship. We were not going to cancel worship. We were going to worship. We were going to cancel um, in-person worship. And so as we were toying with that decision, or as we were considering it, in my head, what I was thinking was, look, I know how to be a pastor. Just give me the mode in which I need to do that. Mm-hmm. Like if I have to do it online, if I have to do it by letter, if I have to do it by phone call, I know how to do that. I know what to do. Just tell me how. Tell me what the medium will be for that. Now, that doesn't say that I was comfortable with live streaming. I had only done that once, and I did it only because we had a snowstorm. Right. But I figured that we needed to do something to let people know we were here for them. I changed the sermon for that first Sunday. I changed the scriptures. I usually preach from a set of scriptures called a lectionary. There's many different lectionaries, but we follow this particular lectionary that has particular lessons for particular Sundays. But for that Sunday, I changed it. I wanted to speak about our connection with each other as the body of Christ. So I turned to Paul for that. And then I found myself becoming really emotional when I was speaking, because I miss you all. I miss being with you. I miss hugging and shaking hands and being supportive of the people. And so for no other reason than to be authentic, it was just catching up with me. I'm a very task-oriented person in a lot of ways. So, I can follow a set of tasks and I can follow an outline and action plan and all that stuff. But the emotional weight of saying to the folks in the body of the sermon, saying to the folks that I missed them, my emotions caught up with me in that moment. And, so how one deals with it is by being authentic. Mm-hmm. I feel that it is important to be a leader that models positive things to the people. Not like in, look at me, this is how it's done. I don't mean that. But I mean to say that people are always watching. People Yes. are always paying attention. And so one must model what is right and one must model what is helpful. And so I find that it's important to model in a time of crisis a sense of peace and a sense of calm. Not that means that I have the answers, not that means that there is nothing to worry about, but that, again, going back to my mom, that sense of comfort in knowing that we are in God's arms, or in God's hands, in her phrase. Now, it's a problematic phrase in the sense that you might say, or one might say, well, are the people dying in God's hands? Why, if they are in God's hands, are they dying or suffering or something? And so it's not a faith statement without complications or without some tension. And one could, I can certainly talk through what that is like or what that feels like, to know that even when we are in God's hands, there might be pain. My example would be, a parent who is holding on to a child who has hurt themselves, hurts with the child. And so to be in the arms of that parent while they are hurting doesn't take away the hurt, doesn't question whether the parent cares for the child or not. But at least in that moment, even as the tears flow, or even as the pain is throbbing, that at least that child knows that they are in their parents' arms. And at least one thing is right with the world, at least in that moment, even if nothing else is. So I feel that as I try to lead or share in leadership in this congregation, I want to remind us of that. I want to remind us that we are connected to God and God is connected with us. That doesn't mean we get to have all the answers. I mean, just look at the book of Job. We don't get to have all the answers. But it does mean that we make a positive statement of faith, and that is, in my case, put yourself in God's hands, or put the problem in God's hands. Another way to say that would be, we are in community and we will get through it together. I mean, that's a statement of the body of Christ. There could be other ways in which we could speak of that. One way in which I went to a workshop once that was actually a workshop on leadership. It's a good program. It's in Indianapolis, called Hoosier Fellows. I was fortunate enough to be a part of that. And during one of the workshops in that year-long thing, they had us distill our vision into a phrase. So we went through this whole exercise about how our vision could be summarized. And I was with leaders of industry. I was with nonprofit leaders. I was the only clergy person in that particular class. But there were other people from all over, education, all over. And so here, each one of them was trying to encapsulate their vision for who they are as a leader, because it was all about leadership. And the phrase that I came up with after following this whole exercise was, we are channels of God's love. And to me, that encapsulates how I understand my role, how I understand my faith, that I am not the manufacturer of that love, but rather is God's love. And I am not to hoard it or dam it up, but let it flow. So that whatever it is that I do isn't because of, look how great I am, or how well I did in class and seminary or whatever, but rather that I am a conduit, I am a channel who endeavors not to stop that flow, who endeavors not to get in the way of it, but rather let it flow freely, so that it impacts the people around us. In this time right now of crisis, where we could get pretty hoardy, how people are like buying more than they need, or when people feel like they have to take care of themselves before anybody else, and those kinds of things. Rather than judge that, I'm just simply saying, just let the blessings flow, let the love flow to you, to yourself, to your family, to your community. It is a part of how we live our witness as people of faith, to believe in something that is ultimately good and guiding. Again, not to say that there shouldn't be anxiety or pain or tears, but our position is not one that is selfish, or one that is arrogant, or one that is a barrier, but rather free flowing, and acknowledging the source of the good things, and letting those good things flow through us, flow in us, but flow through us.
Wow. So did you happen to get the highest grade in regards to the phrase for your mission?
No, and I wish I had the phrases that the other people had, because they were fantastic. They were all within the context of their work or their business. I just know that it made sense for me, and right. I sort of make light of it, and I say, well, if you were to put your faith in a bumper sticker, this is what mine would be. But it's serious for me. I mean, I found the exercise helpful, and it was a whole 2 days class, that particular thing. But the one thing I remember is that phrase. So like it made an impact in me, that the process that the instructor led us through hit home. Mm-hmm. I mean, and that was, golly, 6, 7, 8 years ago.
Yeah. So what else, what positives have come about in the past couple of weeks for you and for the church?
Well, me personally, I am blessed that I'm here with my family, working from home. So I have a 17, Tracy and I, my wife, have a 17 and a 19-year-old two boys living at home, and we've been able to work together because both my wife and I are working from home, and the boys are doing schoolwork. We've been able to eat meals together. It's been a blessing that we've been able to do that together. Um, I mean, clearly, it's a situation that's not something we've ever been a part of. It's not like we can even pretend that we are on vacation or a staycation.
Yeah.
This is definitely different. But it's been a blessing to be able to enjoy those quiet moments or those nice moments with each other. I feel like something good that has happened in the church is that people have willingly gone beyond their comfort zone to care for each other. So the very first thing I did when the session and I made the decision to cancel in-person worship was I reached out to the chair of the deacons, the board of deacons at our church. And I said, Alan, I know that each deacon has a set of deacon families. These are 15 or so families that each deacon is supposed to connect with every so often, write them a note, see them at church, send them an email. But, it's something that would happen once a quarter, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
But I said, I really want to encourage them to be in contact with all their families very soon. And what I've discovered is that they are reaching out to their families about once a week or once every other week. And that has been a way in which the people have felt the connection with the church. I'm saying that in general terms because every deacon is different. And I just am hearing from those that are going through their list more than once. But I found that was a positive. I have found that it's been a positive to do worship online because some folks who are away have been able to feel connected to the church. There are people who are members of the church who no longer live in Columbus or who are studying abroad, and they have felt connected, and that has been good and beneficial.
Mm-hmm.
I feel that this time is really challenging us to ponder what the real meaning or what the meaning is of community for us. We take things for granted. And so as we are trying to be a community of worship, what does that mean really? What is it that we miss? I mean, because these are not ideal conditions. So what is it that we miss, and what is it that we long for, and what is it then that we recognize that is the core of what community is about? Um, and so I think that those are important things. Um, I'll be continuing to challenge us to look at different things, and that maybe this time of the crisis is opening our eyes to different realities or realities that we were just not keenly aware of, um, like the notion that this disease is affecting disproportionately people who are poor or people of color or people in jails. So like we need to consider what that says about us as a society and as a community. Again, not to judge it necessarily, but to raise to the forefront that there are some inequalities in our society that are impacting people disproportionately for no through no fault of their own. Just it so in a way that then places in context the the um, the meaning for say for example for ministry for us. What is that? How do we once we are on the other side of this? How will we care for one another? How will we see each other clearly?
It opens up it opens up, I want to say a new door, but it actually opens up many doors
Yeah.
and windows and sunlights. That the people that we were reaching before came through the doors, and now there's an opportunity. I think I'm reading into what you're saying is the opportunity is to bring the message to those that can't come or won't come or are in a different a group altogether. Like just what you said about students studying abroad or people that have moved away from our neighborhoods and moved to a different state because of a job or
Right.
retirement, but they're still a member of the congregation. I see this as a great opportunity for the future. Is there a way to bring them a message more than just audio?
Right. Right. And that is a part of the consideration. And already there's been conversation in the worship committee and in the session, our church board, about continuing our streaming services even once we're back to meeting in person, because it has been an impactful medium for supporting each other and reaching out to each other.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. So I know that you are, and I'm going to change gears only for a minute, but I know that part of your uh, keeping yourself from going stir crazy is you are a marathoner
Yep.
or a half marathoner. Do you consider yourself a marathoner or just a runner?
Well, all you need to do is run one marathon to be able to be considered a marathoner. So
You're a marathoner. Okay. But
I mean, I prefer the half marathon distance, but I've run 2 marathons.
okay. So is that help you get away from the stir crazy? Is
Oh
being
yeah,
able to get out and run, a 6 or a 12 or a 20 mile, just to get your mind clear?
absolutely. Yeah, it's really helpful. I mean, so physically, it releases things that I can't even articulate are tense. Because it's difficult to run when you're tense. You can do it, but it'll be uncomfortable. So it requires a letting go to just even get out there and run. So already that's helpful. Furthermore, I don't usually listen to music on my headphones. It used to be that I didn't run with headphones at all. I don't run races with headphones, but sometimes I like to put them on, and for the most part I was listening to podcasts, but recently I've been listening to music. But just the ability to zone out, whether I'm just listening to my breath or whether I'm listening to U2 or whomever, it has a way of releasing. And the other thing that happens is that whether I'm listening to music or not, running for some reason for me, and I'm sure I'm not unique, has a way of helping me solve riddles or gives me ideas that I wasn't figuring out like intently. Just as I'm running, as I'm doing it, something will pop into my head. Sometimes people do that or say that when they're driving. They say, "Oh, I go out to drive long distances to clear my mind," and then ideas come to me. So that for me, that's running, where I can just do something and then my mind is in either a quiet enough place or a dislocated enough place that then an idea will pop in, and it could be an idea for a sermon. It could be an idea to clarify something that I've been thinking about. um, it could be something that relates to me as an individual as I'm trying to figure my life out. But yeah, it's helpful. So I don't want to say that it's productive time, because it's not like I'm doing it in order to go get sermon ideas, but I know that there is a place for me when I'm running that I don't encounter in the same way as when I am in front of a computer typing away and trying to write a sermon or something. Something is different about it. I don't know how to explain it. People talk about it in terms of the physical nature of moving. So it doesn't even have to be running. You can just go for a walk and be challenged or inspired. For me, it just happens to be running.
Hmm. Well, I'd like to thank you for your time, Felipe. You've given us a lot to think about and given us a clearer picture into what you do as being I don't want to say man of the cloth, but I'll say a man of God.
Thank you.
And I don't consider you a preacher, and I mean no disrespect. I've told you this before. I don't consider
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
a preacher, but I consider you
Thank you.
a teacher of the word, and that comes with it a very special position in my heart, in that you share. excerpts from the Bible, whether it's an entire chapter or whether it's just a couple of verses, but then you give poignant stories, and I think that that's what really hits home for myself and my family, is that we can connect with you. And that's why I had you come on, because again, you're someone that I respect. You're someone that I enjoy being around, and it's really a bummer right now that we can't. I can't give you a handshake or a hearty hug because I'm a hugger. So
So much, so much.
yeah.
No,
Well,
Paul, I appreciate being invited to be in your podcast. I'm honored. I'm grateful to be in a journey of growth with you and your family as we all try to, live out our faith. I think the world of you and of your family, and I'm grateful that our families know each other and connect each other. I know our boys connect with your girls, and I am grateful that we get to be in that kind of partnership at the church.
yeah, that's the true definition of community. Definitely,
Yes.
definitely. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and close. And everybody, this has been My Liberty and Stuff podcast, and I have been your host, Paul Shin. Thank you very much, Pastor Felipe Martinez, for coming on and being a guest with us today.
Thank you.